Hey guys, tonight we saddle up for a journey across Asia. But not just any journey, we're about to ride with the Mongol Empire's infamous courier system. You'll be a male rider, galloping across open grasslands so wide they look like the edge of the world. The wind cuts across your cheeks, the sun flashes off your stirrups. And in your saddlebag is a message so important it could change an entire kingdom. No map, no phone, no GPS lady whispering turn left, just hooves, instinct, and a government that doesn't take kindly to delays. The Mongol Empire, at its peak, stretched from the Pacific to the Danube. But what made it truly terrifying wasn't just the conquest, it was the communication. You're about to join the fastest mail system the world had ever seen. And spoiler, you probably wouldn't survive this job, not because of the workload though. That's brutal, but because Mongol discipline makes your worst boss look like a teddy bear. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The wind is constant on the steppe, not dramatic, just insistent, always brushing at your robes, drying your lips, reminding you that here, you're a speck on an ocean of grass. You shift your weight in the saddle. The leather creaks beneath you, and your horse, sturdy, stocky, with a permanent "I'm built for this" expression, trots ahead like he already knows the route. And in a way, maybe he does. You're riding west from Karakoram, the Mongol capital, headed to some nameless outpost 200 miles away. You're part of a relay network called the Yama system, so well organized. European traders called it the first real post office. Except there's no cheerful mail truck and definitely no stamps. Just you, your horse, and a stretch of land longer than some countries. Mongol mail riders were elite. This isn't a side gig between plundering campaigns. You're state employed. You have a special pass carved from bone or stamped with imperial insignia, your version of a badge. You flash it at stations to get a new horse or a warm meal. And it means to things. You have imperial authority, and you better not mess this up. Your first leg is about 25 miles. That's how far a single Mongol horse can go at full tilt before needing rest. But you're not resting. You're swapping horses. The second you arrive, sweaty and wine-blasted, someone hands you a fresh mount. You grab your saddlebag, swing up again, and you're off. No time for small talk. At full speed, you can cover up to 200 miles in a day. In an era where most people don't travel more than 10 miles from where they're born, that's like having teleportation powers. Marco Polo once marveled at how messages in the Mongol Empire traveled faster than news in Venice. Historians estimate that over 1,400 relay stations blanketed the empire, spaced roughly the distance between your snack breaks on a road trip. But there's no road. That's part of the magic. You're not following a paved route. The steppe is wide open, and you trust your sense of direction, the angle of the sun, maybe a landmark like a twisted old tree or a hill shaped like a crouching lion. Mongols don't love written maps. They memorize. You memorize. And if you get lost, well, the empire does not send search parties. The horse beneath you snorts and flicks an ear back at you. You're not alone out here, even if it feels like it. Marmots dart between tufts of dry grass. Falcons circle overhead. And somewhere in the distance, you swear you see a herd of wild gazelles, tiny dots leaping across the horizon like they've got urgent places to be. The silence is weirdly calming. Just hooves, breath, wind. Your thoughts get roomy out here. You think about the message in your bag. Maybe it's a military order. Maybe a merchant contract. Maybe a love letter from some Mongol princess to her not-so-secret lover on the Caspian Sea. You're not supposed to peek, but of course, people sometimes do. One courier reportedly memorized a message just in case the original got stolen. That's loyalty. Or paranoia. Or both. And then, a weird little fact, some historians think Genghis Khan once sent trained falcons carrying messages tied to their claws. No hard evidence, just whispers in the scrolls, but still. You glance up at a bird overhead and wonder if he's on the clock. Your thighs ache from the riding, but there's no stopping. The empire needs answers fast: tax updates, battle reports, grain prices, suspicious rumors. And let's be real, Genghis Khan wasn't known for his patience. Riders who failed were sometimes executed, or if they were lucky, just demoted to dung collector. Even the horses have a work ethic that would make a gym coach blush. Mongol ponies are short, thick-boned, and practically tireless. They eat grass, drink snowmelt, and keep going. When the saddle rubs your thighs raw or your legs go numb, you just remember, your horse is still trotting like this is a brisk stroll. Somewhere to your left, the grass ripples strangely. You slow down just for a second. A fox darts out, then vanishes. Again, you've been told to ignore distractions, but it's hard not to feel like the steppe is alive watching you, testing you. There are stories of spirits in these grasses, riders who vanish, shadows that move when there's no wind. But for now, you breathe in the sharp air, adjust your seat, and prepare for the next station. You've done one leg, dozens more lie ahead, and with each mile, the empire hums a little louder. You spot the next station long before you reach it, just a smudge on the horizon at first. Like a yurt had an idea and decided to grow walls. As you ride closer, the outline sharpens, a cluster of low structures, smoke curling lazily from one chimney, a few horses tethered to a post, stamping their hooves in the dirt. This is your first relay stop of the day, and it smells like roasted mutton and worn leather. You pull up fast. A stable boy, maybe 12 years old, and squinting into the sun, rushes out with a new horse already saddled. No questions. He knows the drill. You leap off, sling your saddlebag onto the next mount, and with a curt nod, you're gone again. Total pause time, maybe 90 seconds. If you were hoping for a moment to stretch your back or find a bush to pee behind, good luck. The yem waits for no one. Every courier in the system is part of a living relay, what modern folks might call the original express delivery. These stations, known as gratij, are the engine rooms of the Mongol communications machine. Some are simple tents, others, especially along major routes, are fortified with wooden stockades, tiny garrisons, and emergency stashes of dried cheese, fermented mare's milk, and spare arrows. It's like Amazon Prime, if your Prime driver also had a bow and permission to commandeer any horse he wanted. You're past the one carved with bone and inked with imperial script makes this possible. These credentials are called pesa, and they're the reason people jump when you show up. They're essentially magical "do not mess with me" tokens. If you're a courier carrying a high-ranking pesa, you can demand food, shelter, and fresh horses from anyone, noble or peasant. Denying you isn't just rude, it's treason. Sometimes the passes themselves are ornate, inlaid with silver or bearing the great Khan's personal tamga. A sort of waxy stamp meets brand logo. Yours is more humble, but the meaning's the same. You're on royal business. And if someone slows you down, they'd better prepare a really compelling excuse. Mongol rulers weren't known for their forgiveness or love of delays. You settle into a rhythm. Now ride, swap, ride, swap. The terrain is shifting beneath you. The flat steppe gives way to rolling hills. Their curves dusted with thin brush. The wind comes and goes in bursts, sometimes warm, sometimes sharp with the bite of snow melting somewhere up north. You pass other riders occasionally, flashing your passing greeting, each of you wrapped in layers of wool, sweat, and the unspoken knowledge that yes, your thighs also hurt. One rider tells you briefly that a storm's coming to stations ahead. Then he's gone again. The only real news out here travels on horseback through nods, grunts, and maybe the occasional joke about being chased by goats. The Yem network isn't just about messages, it's how rumors flow too. That merchant caravan was late. This commander's troops are grumbling. Someone said the Khan sneezed during morning prayers. And now everyone's speculating whether it's a sign of war. Historians still argue whether the Mongol relay system was purely administrative or had a deeper intelligence-gathering role. The truth's probably both. When you ride like this, everything becomes information: how many animals are grazing where, what the roads look like, who's been drinking too much kumis and talking about rebellion. At the third station, you're offered a hot drink. You take it this time. It's salty, warm, and slightly sour fermented mare's milk. Not exactly a vanilla latte, but it does the trick. The attendant tells you a rider came through yesterday bleeding from the shoulder. Bandits, maybe. Or wolves. You don't ask. You're not paid to worry, just to ride. You notice something odd when you get back on the next horse. A carved wooden tag tied to the bridle. It's small, smooth, and painted with a symbol for West. A backup, a wayfinding tool, maybe just someone's version of good luck. Mongols weren't superstitious in the way you might expect. They didn't fear ghosts so much as they feared disorder, delays, miscommunication, a broken link in the chain. Those were the real demons. You pick up speed again. There's a lightness to the air now, the clouds thinning overhead, the smell of wet earth rising from the ground. It's the kind of ride that makes you believe you could go forever. Just hooves and sky, the message inside your bag, and a promise of someone somewhere waiting for it. And here's the kicker. You don't even know what it says. You might be delivering a declaration of war, or maybe it's just a supply list. One courier once spent 3 days riding nonstop to deliver a message. That turned out to be a royal shopping list. Paper, ink, pine nuts. You don't ask questions. You just ride. As the sun dips toward the edge of the horizon, you feel the weight of the distance behind you. You've crossed more ground in a day than a medieval peasant would in a month. You've ridden faster than some armies. You've outrun weather, terrain, fatigue, and the knowledge that one bad fall could mean dying out here with only your horse and a stubborn piece of carved bone for company. But the job's not done. The message still isn't delivered. And ahead, past the last ridge, another station waits. As dusk settles, you spot a flicker of firelight on the horizon. That's your next stop, a yam station half hidden in a shallow valley, ringed with scrubby trees and sloped grass like someone tried to build a fort but got bored. Halfway through, you approach cautiously. Just because it's a Mongol relay doesn't mean it's always friendly. Sometimes these outposts double as inns, sometimes they're used by local lords, and once in a while, they're deserted. Tonight, you're lucky. You ride into a station bustling with quiet, purposeful activity. Two older women tend to a simmering pot near a low fire, while a boy refills water troughs. The station chief, a stern-looking man with one eyebrow and 3 teeth, gives your pass a squint and a grunt before motioning toward a tent where a fresh horse waits. You dismount and stretch your legs for the first time in hours. It's like your knees forgot how to exist. Inside the tent, it's surprisingly cozy. The air smells of smoke, animal fat, and boiled millet. A low table offers a bowl of dried cheese curds and a slab of something that might be yak. You chew slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because it's tough enough to defeat even the sharpest molars. One of the women hands you a warm bowl of broth. You nod in thanks and slurp without asking what's in it. Better not to know. Could be lamb, could be horse, could be, well, let's stick with lamb. This is the yam station at its best. More than a pit stop, it's part gas station, part intelligence hub, part village post office. Word moves here in more than one way, from rider to rider, from cook to guard, from a stranger's overheard cough to the ears of someone with a long memory and an interest in palace politics. Messages are carried in bags, but gossip that travels on breath and sideways glances. One rider at the table is already asleep, his head cradled in his arms. Another is oiling his bow. You exchange nods. There's no real camaraderie in this line of work, just mutual understanding. You're all doing the same impossible job, and you're all equally likely to be forgotten if something goes wrong. And things do go wrong. Just last moon, a station further west was burned down. No one knows by whom. Bandits, rebels, unhappy vassals with poor mail service reviews. Historians still argue whether these relay stations were purely functional or also political tools, outposts of Mongol control planted deep into every corner of the empire. Some say they were the first true infrastructure of empire-wide surveillance. Others think that's giving them too much credit. Either way, if a station falls silent, people start asking questions. You're only resting here for half an hour, long enough to eat, water the horse, maybe adjust your boots. Mongol riding boots aren't what you call ergonomic. The soles are flat and the leather stiff, but they're built for gripping stirrups, not walking. And anyway, walking, that's for people who aren't hauling imperial orders across mountains and deserts. As the fire dims, you step outside again. The stars are brutal, so many, so bright. They don't twinkle so much as burn. The step at night feels like a different world. Cold settles on your shoulders. Your breath fogs. Somewhere nearby, you hear the distant bark of a fox or a dog. And far off, like a memory you haven't had yet, a single wolf howls. You mount the next horse and ride into darkness. No torches, no markers, just memory and instinct. Mongol couriers were trained from childhood to navigate this way by feel, by the shape of the land under the hooves, by the sound of water or the scent of certain shrubs. Some routes follow rivers, some hug the edge of mountains, and some pass through towns whose names only exist in dusty ledgers now. And then, oddly, you smell bread. Actual bread. You pass a merchant camp tucked along a bend in the path, Persian traders, maybe, or Khitan silk men. You don't stop. They don't wave. Everyone knows not to interrupt a mail rider. But it's a reminder that this road, this invisible thread across Asia, isn't just yours. It's how empires are stitched together. Messages, merchants, movements. You catch yourself nodding off and slap your thigh to wake up. It's a dangerous trick. Falling asleep in the saddle. Riders have done it. Some even learn how to nap while letting their horse follow the trail. But you're not there yet. You need to stay alert. There's a river crossing ahead, and though it's shallow, in the dark it can feel like a bottomless trench. Your horse hesitates at the water's edge, ears flicking. You click your tongue, whisper nonsense to him, and he steps in. The water is cold and rushes around your boots. You lean forward, steadying your balance. The stars ripple in the surface, broken by your passage. You're officially halfway through your route. On the other side of the river, you find another strange sight, a man waiting, holding a lantern made from a hollow gourd. He's not part of the yam, just a traveler, maybe, or a night herder keeping watch over sheep somewhere behind the hills. He nods at you and says a word you don't recognize. You nod back. No need to speak. Everyone knows what you're doing. The path says it all. You ride on, the night growing deeper, the air crisper, the land more empty than ever. And still the horses run. You could almost believe they understand, that they've memorized the stations and know this path as well as you do. Maybe better. You lean into the saddle, rest your hands on the horn, and let the rhythm carry you forward like a wave. Soon, another relay, another fire, another horse, another mile. The next leg feels different, heavier somehow. Not just because your muscles are beginning to complain in new and creatively painful ways, but because the land itself starts whispering threats. This part of the route winds through a narrow gorge, its flanks steep and crumbly, like the mountains got bored of standing tall and decided to lean in on you. Your horse is alert, ears twitching. The path is barely wide enough for two riders side by side, and the wind here carries strange echoes. You think you hear a whistle, but it might just be wind cutting through cracks in the rock. Or it might be bandits. Yes, bandits. A courier's worst nightmare, second only to Genghis Khan's disappointment. The empire may control a ridiculous chunk of the world right now, but that doesn't mean it's free of thieves, deserters, or angry local chiefs who never quite accepted Mongol rule. You tug your bow into easier reach, just in case. You're not a soldier, but you're not helpless either. Every courier is trained in self-defense, and besides, your pass technically gives you the right to summon local troops for protection, assuming they haven't already joined the bandits. You don't see anyone, not yet, but your gut knows something's off. You tighten your knees, steady your pace, and keep moving. There's no glory in stopping. About halfway through the gorge, your horse stops, suddenly snorts, paws the dirt, and refuses to move. You lean forward, whisper nonsense reassurances again. That's when you spot it, a pile of stones off to the left, where someone clearly tried to block the path and then gave up. Old, new. You don't know. You nudge the horse round it, keeping your eyes wide, your heart thumping like a war drum. Made of ribs, still no sign of people, just birds, vultures specifically circling overhead. You try not to take it personally. When the gorge finally opens back into wider plains, you exhale hard enough to feel it in your toes. You're alive. No arrows, no ambush, just a heightened awareness of how very alone you are out here. The Mongol Empire may feel like a machine of unstoppable efficiency, but every gear in that machine, every courier, every horse, every station runs on the thin edge between order and collapse. One broken leg, one lost bag, one wrong turn, and the message fails. And failure, in this job, is not something you explain away with a cute excuse. The stakes are high. It's not just gossip you carry, it could be a royal decree, a troop movement order, even news of a birth or a death that shifts the balance of the empire. That's why the Mongols didn't just rely on speed, they built fear into the system. Riders who abandoned their posts could be executed. Horses found dead without a courier nearby triggered investigations. There's even a rumor that Genghis once buried a lazy courier alive under a yam station floor, probably apocryphal. Hopefully. Still, it makes you ride faster. As you cross back into flatter terrain, you find yourself glancing at the sky. It's early morning now, the stars fading into a pale violet wash, the kind of color that makes you think of cold metal and quiet promises. You're nearing a major crossroad and intersection where different yam lines connect. It's the postal equivalent of Grand Central Station, except with fewer snack carts and more goats. This relay station is larger than the others. Dozens of horses are tied in rows, being brushed down and resaddled. A woman in a felt cap holds a ledger, a literal book, one of the few you've seen on this trip. She marks your arrival time, barely glancing up, then waves you toward a tent, where you're expected to rest. You have 15 minutes. Not much, but enough to scarf down a bowl of barley porridge and toss water onto your face while you eat. Two other couriers discuss their routes. One just came from Samarkand, the others headed toward the Persian Gulf. They speak casually, but it's impressive. This system links cities you've only heard about in stories, from Korea to Baghdad, from Siberia to Tibet. The Mongol relay stretches like an invisible web. It's how Genghis kept control of a fragmented empire through letters, threats, and a bunch of extremely sore riders. Historians still argue whether couriers ever exaggerated the content of their messages, embellishing for personal gain or survival. One traveler wrote that couriers memorized key messages in case of document loss, which means at least some of them knew exactly what they were delivering. In theory, Tampering with the message was punishable by death. In practice, well, who's checking in the middle of the steppe? After your brief stop, you remount a new horse and head out again. This time, the wind is in your favor. The grass parts easily under the hooves. You feel the miles melting behind you, your body locked into rhythm now, shoulders relaxed, hands loose, mind floating somewhere between focus and fatigue. You pass the occasional herder, wrapped in wool and walking slowly beside a caravan of yaks. You pass a group of monks, bald and barefoot, humming prayers to the rising sun. You pass a hawk perched on a boulder, blinking at you like it's impressed. The road isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just beautiful. And then, as if the empire wants to remind you who's boss, you hit AMUDFLAD. It comes out of nowhere. One moment you're coasting, the next your horse is half swallowed in muck. You lurch forward, nearly falling, cursing softly as you slide off and coax the animal free. Your boots squelch with every step. There's no way around it. You'll have to walk the horse until the ground firms up. You trudge through, breath steaming, legs soaked. Every step reminding you that glamour and government work rarely mix. At least the mud masks your smell. You haven't bathed in 2 days, and frankly, you've gone full historically accurate by now. The next town will probably smell you before they see you. At long last, the ground dries beneath your feet. You swing back onto the horse, dripping but triumphant. You've cleared the danger zone. You've outlasted wolves, ghosts, and questionable goats too. You're getting closer to your destination, but here's the twist. There's still no map. The land begins to shift again, not just physically, but in flavor. You can taste salt on the breeze now, though you're still far from any true coast. The grasses are shorter, patchier, and the wind carries smells you haven't known before. Spices, smoke, and something faintly sweet like drying fruit. You're entering the edge zone where Mongol control blends into foreign influence. Languages change. So, do faces, but the yam still going strong. You're close to your delivery point. The station ahead is the final one before the message passes into new hands, either with another rider or a local dignitary. But here's the strange part. You've done it all without a map. How? That question follows you as your horse plods along a dry riverbed, hooves crunching over pebbles. There's no marked trail, no post, no carved arrows in stone, and yet, you've navigated with eerie precision. That's because Mongol riders didn't rely on maps, they were the maps. Each courier memorized their route through repetition, oral tradition, and a near spiritual attention to detail. You remember the briefings before your first run, how to find direction, by feeling the wind on your cheeks, how to judge time from the length of your horse's shadow, how the taste of a specific route meant you were within 2 hours of a water station. You were told about the birch tree that grows sideways near the 6th station, the bend in the river that looks like a horse's jaw, the rock outcrop that, from a distance, resembles a man kneeling. They taught you to listen to birdsong. Certain types of crows gather near roads. To smell cooking smoke. Yam stations used a specific type of wood that carried far. Some riders swore they could navigate by scent alone, tracing subtle changes in wine-borne grass, manure, and even human sweat. Was it reliable? Not always. Historians still debate whether Mongol riders used some early form of mental cartography, passing information orally, embedding directions in songs or stories like ancient GPS voice prompts. But for you, it's muscle memory. You know the angles, the hills, the way the land rises like breath before a dip. Your horse seems to sense it too. Maybe this is part of the magic, part animal instinct, part sheer repetition. You crest a ridge and spot a lone tree. It's twisted, gnarled, and bent like a man bowing in prayer. You smile. That was in the song. You're on track. As you descend the slope, you pass a broken wagon, abandoned, half buried in dust. Looks old. Its wheels are splayed out like tired legs, a relic maybe, from some failed trade mission or a courier who never made it. You glance at it, but don't stop. You can't afford sentiment right now. Your saddlebag is heavier than ever, not in weight, but in responsibility. You're not just delivering a message. You're delivering momentum, the flow of an empire's pulse. You ride into the final station. This one's grander than the rest. A tall wooden gate, banners flapping in the wind, and guards who look at your pass with more suspicion than admiration. You're on the empire's edge now. People here have mixed loyalties. Still, your Pesa grants you access. You dismount stiffly, your legs wobbling like boiled noodles, and hand over the bag. A record is made. Your arrival is noted. You've completed the route, and yet, even as the message passes from your hands, the ride isn't done. You're given the option to return home or ride a new leg. You consider it. One more stretch. One more wild blur of hooves and wind and half-fermented milk in dented bowls. But first you rest. In a canvas tent near the station, you finally strip off your dust-caked cloak. Your feet are blistered. Your back aches. But there's a warmth in your chest. Not pride, exactly just the calm knowing that you did the job, held the line, bridged the distance. You lie down on a thin pad of wool, the scent of smoke and horsehair still clinging to your skin. Somewhere outside, hooves clop on packed dirt. Another rider, maybe. Or maybe it's just the echo of yourself, still moving, still galloping toward a fire that waits on the edge of a mapless world. You think about that map again, not the kind with lines and labels, but the one stitched in your memory. The one that smells like wind and grass, that hums with the silence of 1,000 hidden stations, that pulses with the beat of hooves. It's the kind of map you don't draw. You become it. And then, as your body gives way to sleep, the only sound left is the breathing of the land, a reminder that the world, even at its fastest, still turns slow enough for one rider to keep pace. Let your breath soften now. You've come a long way across plains and rivers, through valleys where silence pressed against your ribs, past stations flickering with firelight, faces blurred in memory, voices barely above a whisper. The world felt impossibly wide for a while, didn't it? But now it's shrinking back to the quiet space you lie in. The hooves are quiet. The wind has died down. Even the stars seem to dim, as if they know you've earned some rest. Your hands no longer grip leather. Your back no longer bears the weight of the saddle. That long road, once endless, now folds itself gently behind you. You're warm, safe. Your muscles may still hum with the rhythm of the ride, but it's slowing, settling, softening into a quiet sway, like a boat drifting into still water, like breath fading into dream. The empire still turns. Messages still fly across its veins. But you've done enough. You've carried the story. You've become part of the line that connects one fire to another, one voice to the next. And here, in this quiet space, the only thing you have to carry is rest. Let the ride fall away. Let the dust settle behind you. Sleep well, rider.